Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video. You're on the fast track to receiving great reward. So I want to remind you to expect miracles in your life. Believe that all the work you're putting in and the effort you're investing into your future is making results far greater than you can imagine. And especially when we don't see the results of our efforts, we may start doubting into what we are doing. And of course, it happened to me as well in the past. When, for example, when I've started working on my artistic journey, when I've started working at the beginning, I had that vision and idea, and I had goals about what I want to experience on that journey. But for a long time I couldn't see no results rather than just the improvement of my skills. But because I was so focused on the goals, I couldn't see that actually results are happening in the improvement of my skills. So often I forgot to be grateful, and that caused me to stay for some time in the states of separation. You know, most often when we think that nothing is working out in our favor, actually what is happening, we are growing. And those are the times we are growing the most. So I want to remind you that every single moment you are on that track, receiving great rewards. And actually each moment you are receiving the rewards. But often, because we are so focused on what we want to see, we forget to appreciate what we've already achieved, what we've already created. So it's just a matter of perspective, right? But when it comes to changing our lives, I want to remind you to keep the faith into what you want to experience, and that everything is happening for your greater good. Building confidence is one of the greatest solutions. So confidence to me is the energy of knowing that things are working out even when we have mental blocks around it. So, in yesterday's video, we've been talking about inner critic, how to deal with the inner critic. Not how to suppress it or ignore it, but how to work with it for the greatest possible evolution of our soul. And that's something truly important that we often ignore, because most often people quit, or they don't even begin on working on that mission that they feel deep inside, because that inner critic starts guiding their lives. So let's talk about confidence for a moment, because the universe wants you to be confident in your skin. And it has actually nothing to do with self-esteem, with believing that you can do it. Confidence arises when we deal with our suppressed emotions. And suppressed emotions are like certain holes that were created in our childhood or in our past. And those holes are reasons that we want to do something not for ourselves, but to prove ourselves to others. Like, let's say you want to be a millionaire, not because the core of intention is to be free, but because you want to prove somebody that you are worthy of it, or that you are capable of doing that. And basically it means that once you would achieve it, you would not be more happier than you are right now. For a short term, you would experience that happiness and pleasure and that dopamine rush. You would feel like everything is great, but it would not fulfill that wholeness that you have within. And that's why so many people start seeking drugs and alcohol and different distractions, because they're doing things out of wrong reasons. And building confidence requires us to find those holes we have within, so we can elevate our emotional state, so we can see life more clearly, so we can see what are our real values, what we want to see on the world, what is that greater level of understanding and compassion we can have towards ourselves and people around us. And that is a great reward, not just for yourself, but for people around you. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't seek abundance, but it means that you shouldn't seek more than you need. Because there's a beautiful saying that says, when you have more than you need, somebody else will have less than he needs. And that's why we need to have a great sense of self-awareness to recognize when is enough and when is the time to just, recharge ourselves and give something to somebody else, right? So when it comes to confidence, do what you haven't done before. Do what you haven't done before to get closer to where you want to be. And the thing with confidence is that if you only do what you're confident doing, then your confidence never expands beyond it. So if I give you an example from my life, where I've noticed the most of my emotional wounds, it was when I've started expressing myself on YouTube. I've noticed that I have a lot of shame, I have a lot of fears, I have a lot of unworthiness, and many of those emotions were leading me to express myself unauthentically. And just because I was doing that, I was able to notice those things. That's why it's so important to do something you haven't done before, to find out the aspects of yourself you haven't noticed before. And if you want to receive great rewards in life, you need to do what you haven't done before, so you can recognize the wounds you were not being aware of before. Those wounds were present since they were created, but you were unaware of them. So most of your behaviors were the byproducts of being hurt. And if your actions are making the results that you're able to see in your life, then there's an answer to why your life is the way it is. And there's a great path towards changing the certain circumstances you want to change. So remember that if you only do what you're confident doing, then your confidence never expands beyond it. Always remember that. The second thing I want to remind you today is that confidence can only grow when you're willing to be without it. So think about the goals that you have for the future, the vision that you have for the future, and recognize what are the parts of that dream that are causing you to feel unconfident about it, like that you don't have that belief that it will work, like you feel that maybe it's not possible for you, because there's the hole that I was talking before. There's something missing. A certain understanding about yourself is missing, like a missing link in the story. So confidence can only grow when you're willing to be without it. So for example, when you start doing something, you have no previous experiences about it. It means that you have no confidence about it. But if you have a vision for it, a goal for it, like let's say you have a vision to live a life filled with joy and fulfillment, but maybe right now you're not confident about it. Like even when you write things down, you don't feel confident that it will work out. So the reason you don't feel confident about it is because you haven't done anything about it. So you're staying in your comfort zone. And comfort zone is where you feel confident, right? So getting outside of the comfort zone and doing something new will help you to expand yourself. And when you will expand yourself, you will expand the knowledge about life. And that's growth. And life is all about growth. One of the main purposes of life is to grow, to expand, to learn, to acknowledge yourself about the laws of nature, so we can live more coherent with nature, with all the laws of nature, what works, what doesn't work, what puts us into the flow, what puts us out of the flow, right? And do more of what puts us into the flow and less of what puts us out of the flow. So we can flow with life, right? And that's something truly important. So when you feel like the lack of confidence for the life you want to live, it just means that you need to start doing the things you're lacking confidence for. And that's so powerful. Because as soon as you will make a plan or a list of goals or whatever you have, just start. Just pay attention to where you want to start and start there. Not because you feel motivated, but because you know that you need to build certain skills so you can start living a life of greater meaning or whatever it is. But of course, another reason that we quit or we stop believing that it's possible is that we have that shameful sensation. What if we fail? Right? What people will think if we fail? Which comes from that emotion of shame, which comes from our past. We've been ashamed before. And maybe you said that you will do something to somebody and then you failed and then that person was laughing at you or something like that happened. And it caused you to get into that protective mechanism, like, I never want to fail again. But if you decide to never want to fail again, it means that you will never want to try anything new, right? So there's something about shame. We need to embrace it. And to embrace the shame means that we do the thing even if we're ashamed about it. If you fail, it doesn't mean that you're not meant to experience what you're intending. It's more than anything a sign that you feel unworthy of that. And you feel unworthy of that because you think that you're not capable of having it. And you think that you're not capable of having it because you don't have it already. And you don't have it already because your emotional frequency is not allowing you to have it, right? Most of your actions and behaviors are equal to your emotional sensations. And we've been taught to suppress emotions. We've been taught to ignore emotions. But once we embrace them, we are not controlled by them anymore. We may feel ashamed, but we do it anyway. We may feel afraid, but we do it anyway. Of course, we do it in a certain way that we still feel kinda safe, but not completely. So we step outside of the comfort zone, but not too far out of it to lose everything, right? So embrace the shame or fear or whatever it is, because that's the way how you will receive great rewards in life. That is something that we truly need to remember, because sometimes people think that when they fail, they set a plan and they fail, and it means that you're not meant to experience it or to have it, but it's not true. Well, the thing is that beneath your thoughts and emotions, there is a gentle feeling that is saying to you what you need to do. And if you're in tune with that feeling, you may experience fear and shame and any kind of emotional sensation and inner critic that will say to you why you shouldn't do it. But it doesn't mean that it's not meant for you. It just means that it's time to work on what's holding you back, to embrace it, to move through it, so you can't be controlled by it anymore. Because if we ignore it and we motivate ourselves artificially, like let's say you're constantly listening certain motivational speeches so we can follow a dream, it will only work for a certain amount of time, but soon that emotion will kick in again and it will block you and it will start pulling you back and it will anchor you back into your past. But when you become aware of that emotion and you recognize what that emotion is protecting, like from what it is protecting you, you will learn something completely new about yourself. And what will you learn about yourself is that most probably sometime in the past you've been hurt, and that's why you're still holding on to that pattern. And by feeling it emotionally and doing that new thing anyway will help you to boost your confidence. And you will start believing more into yourself. You will notice, well, even if you feel anxiety, even if you feel shame, even if you feel fear, you can do it anyway. And that's a great way towards self-mastery, isn't it? That's a work of an alchemist, right? You transform darkness. Like those lower emotions are like darkness that is holding you in the cage. And you're willing to embrace it and do what's important to you anyway. That's something truly, truly powerful. So to receive great rewards in life, it's also important sometimes to study people who are already doing what you want, because it helps us to feel the energy they're on, like the energy they're embodying, so they can live the life they're living, but never overdo it. You know, study some people, read a book of somebody who you're admiring, just to see what kind of actions they're representing and demonstrating, what kind of habits they've designed, what kind of values they have. And have some of that critical thinking about it, like, is it in alignment with my values? Is it a life of fulfillment and happiness? Is that person really fulfilled? Or is there something maybe fake about that person? Just to recognize, we can learn so much from everybody, but it's not our mission to become like all those other people. If everything is about growth and expansion and improvement of the character, then we can find everyone as an inspiration. Let's find what can we learn from that person and implement it in your life the way that it is resonating with you. Like if you find something inspiring in my work, maybe it can help you on your journey, but never try to be like me, because you will stop being you, right? Always be yourself. And when we say be yourself, often we hear that. Be yourself. What it means? It means that you need to know yourself, and to know yourself, you need to understand yourself. And to understand yourself, you need to understand your patterns, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're thinking about what you're thinking about, why you're using those words that you're using constantly, why you feel the way you feel. And it requires a deep introspection. So people who are receiving great rewards in life are people who are constantly introspecting their lives, so they can let go of what is not helping them to be who they are meant to be. And that is something truly, truly powerful. Another reminder here, sometimes when we're looking into our future and dreaming about it and visualizing what we want to have, we think that every single day we should work hard on it, or every single day we should be motivated for it to build a life we want to live. But the thing is that we're not. Sometimes we just need to rest. Sometimes we just need to recharge. Sometimes we need to fail at what we are working so we can find a better way to make it happen, or to build a skill, or to improve our character, or to become a better human. And sometimes we need to feel lazy, right? We need to enjoy in feeling lazy as well. Not overdo it, right? But find a balance. It's all about finding the middle point. So not every day you should feel motivated to build your wanting life. Accept that it's okay to rest, that it's okay to recharge, that it's okay to lose yourself in nature, not literally, that it's okay to fail. And of course, the thing is that it's hard to accept failures, like it's okay to fail. We are living in a society that attacks each other for mistakes, right? So we are afraid to fail because we think that people will attack us. So naturally, we feel afraid of that. Naturally, we feel like we don't want to fail. And because we think we don't want to fail, usually we just don't want to start at something new, something we don't have confidence for it, right? So if you're afraid of failing, you will quit when it will get hard. Or even worse, you will switch to an easier or safer option. Or even worse, you will refuse to begin at all. So accept, my friends, that it's all part of growth. That when you are afraid that people will attack you or pull you down, remember that it's not about them, it's about you. And by doing that, you are setting a greater example for everybody else who's dealing with the same fear. So the growth we are experiencing is never just about us. Each individual has his or her own free will to grow in his or her own unique way. So we can find so many different unique examples that what we want to experience is possible, and that what we feel deep inside called to experience is truly meant for us. So remember that it's okay to feel those things, that you are not a bad person, that you are not a weak person, that it's a part of your nature. So you need to accept all of yourself, and it will help you to move further towards where you see yourself to be. But at the same time, be grateful to where you are, because you can't get to where you want to be unless you're grateful for where you are already, because otherwise you will be just chasing something that will never happen. Because the happiness you're seeking to experience in the future will always stay in the future. What we get is a short-term satisfaction, but not real happiness. Happiness comes from a well-living life, right? And well-living life is a life of gratitude, life of appreciation, life of acceptance, everything that is present, because we can't change everything that's already present. But we can always do the best we can out of what we have, right? And that's a great path towards receiving incredible rewards, not just in materialistic perspective, but in emotional perspective, in mental perspective, in spiritual perspective. And that's something truly beautiful. So in order to achieve that, we need to be honest with ourselves. We need to be unconditionally supportive and understanding towards ourselves. And to be honest with ourselves, it means that we need to admit what is the problem right now, right? What you're facing with, what that inner critic is saying to you. And maybe there is some truth in it. And rather than avoiding it, admit it to yourself. Well, yes, I could do it differently. I was manipulated by my emotions or by certain desires that are not coming from my heart. And by admitting it, you will be able to change it. By ignoring it, you will be in fight with yourself. And that's not a beautiful state to be in. And to unconditionally support yourself means that you are here for yourself, that you're always there for yourself. You know, when you're feeling down, what you truly need right now. Ask yourself what I truly need right now, and why I'm not providing it to myself. When you need some mental support, go and meditate, read a good book, or talk with somebody. If you have a friend to whom you can be honest and vulnerable, that's awesome. Maybe a family member, maybe a therapist, maybe a coach, whoever it is, it's important to find somebody to whom we can honestly and vulnerably express ourselves. And you you need to be that for yourself, right? Like journaling, for example. Support yourself, what you're moving through. Be there for yourself. It's a great practice to imagine like you step outside of yourself, just visualize it if you're good with that, and just see yourself as that hurt person, whatever happened, striving towards experiencing a life you're dreaming about. And how would you be nurturing yourself? Like, what would you say to yourself, standing outside of you, like being a friend towards yourself? What kind of support you would show towards yourself? And practice this, right? Really powerful and simple. Because it's so easy to give an advice or to give a support to somebody else. But not often we are able to give it to ourselves. And that's actually the way how we fill up those empty holes that our past created within us. To being unconditionally supportive towards ourselves. Because look at that. In society, most people are judging and criticizing others not because they see them as bad people, but because they're constantly criticizing and judging themselves. So they're just projecting their thoughts onto others because that's how they're used to think. But when you start training yourself to be unconditionally supportive towards yourself, you will become unconditionally supportive towards others as well. And that is a great path towards receiving great rewards of life, right? So, my friends, this is it for today. I will leave you here. I hope you've enjoyed in today's message. I hope you found a great value. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and power. Have a creative day. And thanks to all of you for supporting my art in my Etsy shop. I Draw My Passion. You're all truly appreciated. I love you all, my friends. Until next time, one love.